Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for coming. I want to welcome you to what I know will be a wonderful sharing of works from the Earth of. It's this writing workshop directed by Ginger Teppner and Andrew Helton. And first, I want to thank my dear friends Ginger and Andrew for leading these workshops. I mean, it's just it's such incredible work, and it's so important work because we my God, the world's just going nuts, right? And creating a space where we can expand our stories and share the expanded story, right? Share a version of life that is not compressed into some kind of a violent flatness. And it really, I'm telling you, it means the world to me, knowing that these stories are being created, they're being shared, and now we get to share them all together. So it brings so much depth and voice to all of us. And so I want to thank everybody who's participated in this and who's contributed to this and who's going to share works tonight. And I'm extremely looking forward to it. And I again want to thank Ginger and Andrew for continuing to lead incredible workshops that open up these spaces. So thank you, and thank you all. And I'm going to hand it over to Ginger.
Thanks, Dave. Andrew and I just want to welcome everybody to our Earth Day, Earth of final reading. We are very grateful to be able to continue to do these workshops in collaboration with Arts, Letters, and Numbers. The work that those of you that are here to witness has been either created or curated over the last 6 weeks. And I am hoping that you are as inspired and amazed by the vulnerability and fearlessness that our participants display in the work that they're going to share with you as we are. We're just so grateful to have the opportunity to bring all these people together, and so glad that some of you are here to listen. If you would just make sure your mics are off for the duration and save your applause till the end, we'll do a group applause when everybody's finished. I think that's it. Thank you.
I'm Andrew, the other instructor for this class. I have the pleasure of introducing our first reader, a master of creative dissertation and self-appointed non-poet. Dhooleka Raj has the ability to merge Eastern voices with Western forms, the political with the beautiful, urgency and history. When you experience her work, you can witness and understand the diligence it took in the past for it to exist the way it does in this moment. Dhooleka Raj.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was so kind. Before I start, I just want to say that I'm thankful to this earth that we walk on together and to this space that was created by Ginger and Andrew that allow us to find our together. This is not a poem, one. It's a non-poem filled with fillers, acute observations, secret reflections, notes, notations, heard thoughts, found words, process, this existence, the only way I know to know. This is where I write what I see in this world. If I didn't write, I'd go mad. This is not a poem, too. This is not a poem. This is an observation, a statement, an annoyance, a document. This is an announcement. It is a witness. It is play. This is ours, our ways of being, our ways of knowing, our ways of sensing truth, grace, and dismal destruction. This is unraveling. Generations of trauma buried inside bloodlines, through strings of strangers, those other people whose pain we never knew, could have never met, who came down twisted in our DNA. This is not a poem 3. This non-poem is observing, is fulfilling, is perceiving, is noticing, is recognizing. This is an experience, an empathy, a sensing, a discernment, a feeling, an informing, a grasping. These words with you now are a whittling, an awakening, a witnessing, a meaning making. This is not a poem. It is being seen, being heard, a consciousness, a reckoning. The morning after Brahms. The morning after Brahms, one letter away from Burma, spoke to us of death, our collective mood set to absolution, solemn words spoken by an agnostic concert master. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Sometimes a word just kicks me out, up into an experimentation zone of digging, orienting, seeking, saying the quiet part out loud. The reader doesn't have to understand. Only you have to understand. No implications, metaphors, qualified qualifiers, explained explanations. Writing, not something that has to be explained. Say what you have to say. Get in, get out. Don't read it my way. Leave doors open that might be closed, whispering lines to oneself. I have reader trust issues, confidence in my voice, lack confidence in my edits. Final revisions are fine. A poet knows when the thing is ready to go out the door to join a slush pile. What is something that you know that you cannot unknow, dehumanize, dismissed, ability and acuity become objects in bed? Witness these moments, document as a record, archive your notes, thoughts through words, thought through words. Dawn's breaking. We orient ourselves online, heed the screen's sirens' calls, to watch revanchism remotely, whilst we raise money, listening to a chamber quartet, reminisce on acoustics, reminiscent of faraway Wigmore's famous hall. Before Easter, before a death's renewal, reminds us of our finite selves. We depart revived by the promise of resurrection, money in a hat passed, recollecting Jesus, wired, transferred to Paul, a known unknown, faraway orchestra truck driver, modern apostle who promises to take everything to the edge of Poland. Here, the gray pollution thickens, shrouds of elsewhere burning, vice grips on tiny throats, smoldering remains, traces, laces the thin air, choking the birdsong that should be giving me hope this morning after Brahms became Brahma. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Terri. Terri would introduce herself as, quote, an erstwhile lawyer and practicing human, mother of 2 sons, the wife of Dave for 26 years, a human rights activist. She feels more connected to the world when looking through her writer eyes. Chicagoan at heart, a modern Renaissance woman. Terri has been a flight attendant, a lawyer, and a teacher. She's explored the depths of her own and others' humanity, representing and working on refugee asylum seekers and human rights issues in Burma, Cambodia, and Rwanda. She writes with keen observation and thoughtfulness and vulnerability on everyday life. She's addicted to the silver linings thanks to her forays into meditation, virtual book clubs, and the earth of.
Thank you, Dhooleka. That nearly made me want to cry. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Thank you for your beautiful poems and for all of your generous companionship throughout this wonderful 6 weeks. Emotional labor. In my mind, I explored the depths and layers of life's most important questions, arriving at sublimely excavated words and ideas placed perfectly on the page. In my life, the ticker tape diverts as it scrolls unendingly. Put together care package for niece and her husband battling testicular cancer at age 26. Retained college counselor for son. Question necessity, privilege, and prematurity. Healthy meals. Think about them, never actually make them. Listen to podcasts teaching me how to be resilient and name my feelings. Parrot podcasts to my husband and sons to teach them to be resilient and name their feelings. Call college counselor to tell her about suicide of son's classmate and residual COVID lockdown fragility. Makeout sesh with the dog. Emotional labor, emotional labor, emotional labor, emotional labor. Read everything written about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. Call mom and listen to her neighborhood goings on and her springtime landscaping plans. Look at the front door of the house in Florida on the Ring and make thief of joy comparisons between the sunshine on the video and the snow falling outside the window in Chicago. Do an online workout with Isaac Boots. Do my morning pages that are sometimes afternoon or evening pages. Realize it is almost 6 p.m. and I have not brushed my hair. Did I brush my teeth? Be present with family. Is intention negated if I'm so conscious of trying to be present? Wonder why it takes so much time to get past enemy thoughts masquerading as friends. Emotional labor, emotional labor, emotional labor, emotion. Rose-colored cotton candy clouds draped the late August sky as I drove to the hospital for the birth of our second child. Like a pink baby blanket descending from heaven with our baby girl, I told my friend as I drove. A laboring mother in the bed, such intimacy for someone I had met only once. Nauseating smells. Fainting would be poor form, but my sea legs nearly gave way when the doctor told me to cut the cord. As I breathed through my mouth and cut, my eyes lit on our baby girl's penis. The doctor says, "It's a boy." Initial confusion was followed by the realization that an ultrasound had been misread. And there you were, my beautiful, sweet baby boy. Mine, but not yet mine. 72 hours. 72 hours for the birth parents to change their minds. I tried to keep that in my conscious awareness, but you were already mine in my soul. Don't hold him. Don't get attached. It's only 3 days. Don't let Jack see him in case they change their minds. Your tiny sweetness in the moonlight in my arms. We sat in the chair by the window all night long for 3 nights. For 3 nights, the prayers went up. Prayers for you and whatever would best serve you in this life. All the selflessness I could muster. Followed up by a shameless plug for myself and us. Dear Lord, whatever is best for this beautiful baby, let it be so. But let it be me. Let it be us. I love him so. His highest good, Lord, let it be served, whatever that may be. But let it be me, Lord. Let it be our family, please. Outside the hospital, life went on as usual. And inside, me, you, us, and the prayers. Televisions in hallways and rooms were tuned to coverage of the hurricane in New Orleans. So many tears of despair. As I did with your brother, I saved the newspaper from the day you were born. Yours read, Katrina wallops coast. But I could not despair. I felt only joy as I looked at you with wonder. Mine were tears of gratitude and hope as the seconds ticked away, bringing you closer to home. Emotional labor of love. And I must say with this introduction that I feel like I've been foiled because I actually followed the rules for 2 or 3 lines, and Evan Burgess deserves so much more. But this is my rule following intro for the wonderful Evan Burgess. Evan has a capacious imagination that invites you in. The worlds he creates are familiar, welcoming, and at the same time, entirely surprising. His warmth, courage, and generosity are a gift to all who work with him. Evan Burgess.
Thanks, Terri. Hello, everybody. So when I was walking home from work today, I found this book sticking out of a trash can, and it reminded me of all of you. So I am going to read that today. Let's see if I can full screen it. Okay. 14 Innocent Dicks. Number 1. There is a dick on the windowsill. There is a succulent also on the windowsill. A small paperback, too, is on the windowsill. The sun, as well, rests on the windowsill. 2. I returned to the garden often after the first time. The dicks were wrapped in white cloth. I was alone there and enjoyed being alone and enjoyed being with the dicks. I sat on the grass, my mind racing at the thought that I hadn't yet found the last of the garden's many corners. 3. One day, an individual entered the garden while I was there. They might have said, "What are you doing here?" And I might have answered, "I am here tending to the flowers." 4. 3 dicks meet at the end. The body of time lies behind each, and ahead, nothing. 5. In my nakedness, the sea of dicks finally repelled me. So this was not a danger. Yet I found myself returning to the island after all. 6. I checked the invitation again. It was supposed to be on the 5th floor of the 7th of the dicks of exponentially increasing size. 7. The drawing of the dick tucked itself in between the pages of a notebook. I had assumed that the notebook would be too much like the other notebooks for anyone to have a reason to open it. 8. I suppose the mechanisms were beautiful in their own way. I couldn't decide whether to be angry at the differences or amazed by the similarities. 9. The public baths. 10. 5 dicks boarded the train at Grand Central Station. The most interesting of the group was the first to disembark, to the great dismay of the others. From that point, the 4th dick went on to observe the 5th until, at Providence, a passenger boarded and sat directly in the line of sight. For this reason, the 4th dick remembered most the shape of the landscape between Providence and Back Bay. 11. Over time, the dick softened and learned to yield to the ways of the world. 12. Invoice from the sculptor to the medical artist. 1. Composite mirror for the viewing of a dick from 13 angles in one image. 13. We all watched, transfixed, as the dick lowered itself into the water. And then, what luck, we found another window below the surface. But peering through this window, we saw only a goldfish, tumbling, lazy, bulbous, and graceful. 14. Even with a breeze, the weather was warm, so I sat in the shade. I looked up through the dicks at the flecks of bright sky above. Carol McGorry is a writer whose stories add new characters into our lives. From new family to old friends, Carol offers a steady hand to lead us through fragile geographies.
Sorry. Thank you, Evan. My mother, Constance, then 92, and I take the elevator one flight to the cardiologist. She's unsteady because her blood pressure won't stabilize after a TIA, a warning stroke. We take two of the few empty seats that line the waiting room and look up to the TV overhead, a cooking show. It bores us and we start talking about paper dolls and costumes. Remember cutting out the paper printed dresses with tabs to fold over the cardboard shoulders. And then my mother recalls her high school drawing classes, takes my blank notebook and pencil, begins to sketch the three-cornered hat of Empress Eugenie, Napoleon's wife, creating one sharp corner of the three in the middle, in line with an angled jaw. She flits then to a 40s model, draws a line down the middle of a fresh page to create a center of gravity, she teaches me. She dresses the model, sketching a suit, first a skirt, carving a round line at the hips, drawn in at the knee and back out to create a flounce. The jacket is flared at the waist to complement the hem of the skirt. She leans in to affect detail, suggestive of buttons and ribbon, then works on a hat, her model's head tilted to the left. When she is dissatisfied, she flips the pencil around and erases. Okay, no, it was like this, she says, and darkens the tone of the deep V on the forehead. Then Constance is interrupted, called into the doctor's office, her concentration broken. She hands me the notebook and looks down at her feet, sets them apart, grabs the arms of the chair and lifts herself, first halfway, to find her own center of gravity before standing to walk fully. Still time. I visit my mother early in the morning, one day in the hospital, find her sitting up in a chair and not the bed, eating oatmeal. You look good today, I say, and take a quick iPhone shot. Why this impulse to photograph what turns out to be the final capture? The summer after she died, I traveled to Rwanda again, sit with my friend Claudine, who was the sole survivor of her family of 10 murdered in the genocide. We are sharing a beer and a brochette when Claudine picks up my phone, swipes quickly through the images, ones of the grandkids at Easter combing the lawn for hidden eggs. Then she stops at the shot of my mother in the hospital. Oh, Claudine says, your mom. She wonders aloud, What would my life be like if my mother were alive? Would I be caring for her? Claudine has no photographs of her mother, no still image, only her sense memory. She had photographs in her pocket when the genocideers found her in hiding, negotiating the promise of her body for their use. They agreed not to kill her, but they made her destroy the images. So it's my pleasure to introduce Monica Lacey. Monica's writing immediately draws you into a world immersed in lyric and sensory images and strong voices. You willingly follow her lines, begin to travel to places wistful and deeply imaginative, leaving you in motion beyond the final sentence. As is the case with her visual and multimedia work. Monica Lacey.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. All right. What happens if not this? Use your voice as a location, now asking, how do we let go? Not like the eagles, unable to release, falling out of the sky, locked together in battle before they'll ever let go. Will I always remember the feeling of their talons in my hand, prying them loose? Too much life in them, too much power, and all my fear. Their wings tangled in the wild roses, their eyes still carrying the shock of the fall, the roar of the waves and wind. My white cardigan, tied around the one who seemed he would live, tied to hold his wings, eagle blood, his eyes, hard to look at as though they were extracting something from me. I don't know how to be with the wild. I don't know how to lure forth that creature in me, though I want it. I'm looking for it everywhere. How do we let go? I have so many other questions that come first. How many times can the feet step from daylight into darkness? Again and again, has it always been the same? Do we wake up into the same life every time? The same lessons, the same light? What happens if not this? What happens next? What can possibly happen other than that we one day fall from the sky, confused and struggling? The energy expands and takes everything with it. Often, I don't know what time I'm in. Often, I don't know how far I've been traveling or what lies behind me. Often, I think about the eagles. I wonder if they've died. The one underneath who was losing the battle, his body gone soft, his eyes unfocused. I did what I could, I tell myself. The sun was setting, and I was already afraid. I was afraid before I even saw them. I don't always want to help or share or be willing. I don't always want to be the one who is there. It is awful. It is full of awe, being the one who is there when things fall from the sky and they land in a tangled mess and the wind is fierce and your hands are cold and you're not sure you're strong enough to pry a talon from a thigh and your heart is frozen. I'm back at the wildfire that took over our fields, my mother burning her garbage as they did in the country back then. Maybe I was 11 or 12. She was farther back on the land. I was supposed to be watching, and I was, but the fire jumped. It was hungry, and it went everywhere, and it went fast. I can still feel the panic in my heart and lungs. The cells remember. I ran to her screaming, and she shouted instructions at me, and my sister and neighbors came, and fire trucks, and everyone was in the field with buckets trying to catch it before it reached the trees. Later, my mother told me, "You're just not great in a crisis." And it's that I hear in my head when there is a crisis. And now everything is crisis. And I don't know how to find the bravery that surely I have in me somewhere. With the eagles, it was a stranger, a woman already there, working on untangling the massive birds. Her voice so steady and calm, a deep calm, good in a crisis. We never exchanged names, and I can't recall her face only her voice directing me. I asked her in the midst of it how she knew what to do, and she said she didn't know. She just knew she had to help. She wanted to help. I don't always want to help. Can I still be brave? My voice as a location. How do I tell about the location that is fear in the throat like choking? Seeking the wild places, the incubatory unknown spaces, I'm always traveling. Yet, when I stand under the ragged cliffs against the raging wildfire, holding eagle talons in a gloved hand, I'm reduced to my splintering bones, this useless flesh, my heart failing to pressurize. I long to return to the pack and howl, but I can't find the way, and my voice catches, it catches, it catches. It is my pleasure to introduce Feiyi B. Feiyi's astute observations are consistently razor sharp, distinct in their vitality, opening doors into new perspectives that can take us utterly by surprise. In her writing, she guides us through a carefully observed dream space filled with beauty and the palpable mass and shove of the body as it navigates time, memory, and loss. Feiyi.
Thank you, Monica. Some naps and related feelings. Some naps and related feelings. 1. I need a can of Diet Coke every day. It's meant for around 2 p.m., half an hour after lunch when I find myself checking emails every minute. The thoughts begin to stick together. A can of Diet Coke has just the right amount of caffeine in between 2 daily coffees. I need it when I cannot take my nap. 1. It was once supposed to be a habit and routine. 1. I didn't want to take a nap. I was tired. I stared at a kid on the bed next to mine and read the same energy from his eyes. We chit-chatted while others were napping. As a result, we weren't allowed to get up when others got up for afternoon activities. It felt like a punishment that I didn't care enough about. 1. If you don't nap, you will feel sleepy in the afternoon. My mom kept telling me this. As a child, it sounds like a prophesying curse. 1. I said I needed to go to school early for the group project, but I lied. I lied to skip taking a nap and went to hang out with friends instead. None of their parents asked them to nap at noon every day. It was probably unrelated, but their parents were divorced. 1. I didn't sleep well last night. It didn't count as sleeping. It was several naps. I woke up at 3 a.m., then at 5 a.m. and thought about getting up because I craved some warm food. Then again at 7:30 a.m. and arrived at work late. I expected a text message asking if I had rested well that day. 1. Dreams during naps confused me. The emotions involved were too strong. All senses felt too real, and none of the scripts were pleasant. On another thought, there are daydreams. Daydreams are the opposite of reality, they say. Who said? 1. Here comes another nap time. How clever the teachers are that they switched my pillow to the opposite side of the bed. Harry, Harry, Harry. When the teachers was not watching, I looked up from my bed and shouted the kid's name in a whisper, trying to resume the chat from the last nap. But he was asleep already. Seriously, Harry, we just lay down 5 minutes ago. The teacher's strategy worked. A bit later, I fell asleep too. 1. Sometimes it was not that I was sleepy. I just didn't feel much motivated to stay up. So I lay down, turned to the stomach, and felt the relief in the spine. It has been supporting this girl to stay aspiring for most of the time during the external hours. Then I turned to the side and wrapped my arms around myself. Sometimes I hid my entire existence underneath the blanket. 1. How have you been lately? You should chat with us more, Mom said. Why do you keep nagging? I'm busy every day and I text you and Dad good morning and good night every day. I might or might not have yelled. Why don't you spend more efforts on getting a boyfriend? Who is that guy on your Instagram post? You should communicate more with your parents. She wouldn't give me a break and continued with more questions. I know what I'm doing. I'll tell you more when I feel ready. You're just making me feel more anxious. I yelled so loud that my voice torn the screen between the dream and the reality and woke me up. 1. I woke up confused and I was still in anger. The yelling and the tears were real, but the anger wasn't because the argument didn't exist. It happened before several times, but this time the conversation shouldn't have turned out like this. On realizing this, the anger soon turned into disappointment and more tears. 1. What are the things that you regret but have no way to redeem? I was so busy during my nap dreams. I was so busy living another life outside the 24-hour allowance. Strong desires vibrated into my dreams and built stories tailored to trigger my emotions. But the stories all went wrong. The things that don't get in reality, you thought I would get to obsess them, at least in the dream. You thought that's how dreams work. But no, I didn't have much control of the narratives. The things I wanted were never mine, and the narratives I want to rewind and fix always fell into the same loops. 1. I thought you wanted to tell her that you missed her. I thought you wanted to tell her about your new job. I thought you wanted to tell her that you want to plan a trip together. I thought you wanted to share all your complaints, confusion, and secret joy with her, ask for her advice, and give her shopping suggestions. Why were you still arguing with her when you got a second chance to see her in the dream? 1. Homemade lunch and stuffy summer noon pair perfectly with taking a nap. I wish I didn't have to wake up for school. Several decades after the alarm clock went off, I stood in the living room in pajamas, staring at the clock on the wall in total panic. I stared at the numbers on the clock and my brain was blank. I couldn't tell the time. I couldn't put it together. Are my parents still asleep? They should be, but I don't know. What should I do now? Can Mom ride me to school or Dad? I think I might be running late. I can't read the clock. Are my parents even home? How late am I? Can I skip school today? Minutes later, I was in the back seat of my dad's bicycle, listened to his naggings, knowing that I would be running up the stairs to the classroom as the bell went off, and I would be all right. This afternoon was repeated many times. Thank you, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Michael. Michael have been exploring. Michael have been exploring the meaning of words, exploring different definitions.
Oh, hold on, Feiyi, you got muted.
Sorry, did everyone get to hear Michael's introduction?
Could you please read it again?
Yeah, sure. Michael have been exploring. Michael have been exploring the meaning of words, exploring different definitions, and exploring themselves. Please welcome Michael.
Thank you, Feiyi. I put on makeup, pink and blue, to be a little boy. Some people said they liked it. This is true. I told them I liked their sweater. I drank whiskey. I fell over, without doubt, damaged. My thumb and my face. And this morning, my eye had turned pink and blue. I am no longer that on his own little boy. I don't think he was disappeared, but it is difficult to be conscious while trying to be conscious. Constant moving to speak about consciousness, like wet wood burning, red hot threatening sight, to present without past and future, oblivion, without tense, a home compressed of moments, combustion, celebration, a flickering kind of nostalgia. Still, it's haunting. He still remembers me. It is an aspect of the language, the separation. He has waited long and might forgive me for having left. I have missed him, longing dissolved in words. I wish I could have cared, but he had what he needed. Like me, he built his own belonging. I am very happy to introduce Christine Lorenz. I don't know much about her for certain, but I've heard she's a mother, a teacher, an artist. Though I imagine her as a kind of tinkerer, a creator of fantastical realms made of cast light and formed matter, and a thinker who invites us to wonder freely about the universe and all its little parts. Her writing, like her photographs, wanders in the magical spaces between gentle wisdom and joyful curiosity. Thank you, and here is Christine.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm reading today from Halophilic, 3 Stories of Salt and Plastic. Preface. Salt and plastics are everywhere on Earth that humans are, as well as most places where we aren't. As familiar and close at hand as salt is, imagery of it abounds in language, from the poetic to the mundane. Things can be common as table salt. We can salt the earth of our enemies. In the age of alchemy, salt was seen as an element born of fire and described as a bridge from bitterness to wisdom. But what kind of poetics do we have for a world that is infused with plastics at every level? What kind of stories could possibly fit the world that we're creating now? The term halophilic is used to describe creatures that thrive in a saline ecosystem, like the kind of bacteria that create the pink color you can see in aerial photos of salt lakes. It's also used more generally to designate different factors in salt's behavior in the environment, such as the strata surrounding salt deposits in the ground. On a geological level, salt and petroleum have a complex but well-documented relationship. In a time when the use of petroleum was just beginning to be understood, surveyors would look for salt domes in the landscape for cues as to where to start drilling. Salt itself is abundant in the earth and it's mined in massive quantities. For example, close to where I live, there's a massive salt mine that stretches for miles deep beneath Lake Erie. 4 million tons of salt are unearthed from this mine in an average year, and this one's modest in size compared to many of the industrial salt mines in the United States. As part of the human race, we're participating every day in a reconfiguration of the Earth's mass on a scale beyond what any of us ever get to see. As below, so above. We all use salt every day. Nothing could be more common. An experience of salt is usually not a geological experience. Most salt that we see has been processed, packaged, branded, and streamlined into our consumer logistics system in such a way that we have no way of knowing where it came from. In this respect, salt is a lot like plastic. It's endlessly mutable, endlessly abundant, and to all appearances, groundless. We think of salt in terms of its flavor or how it can preserve things, the way it flows through our bodies, surfacing on our skin, or at times pouring from our eyes. When it comes to what humans do with salt on Earth, though, only a small fraction of it actually goes to food. The largest part of salt production goes to clearing roads. Petroleum and salt are interlocked there again. Our transportation system literally depends on it to get things where they need to go. The next largest end use of salt is for chemical production, particularly chlorine. The products can go anywhere, and plastics can look like anything. In the life cycle of salt in the earth, any little trace of it is about as likely to end up in some form of plastic as it is likely to pass through a human body and surface as a little drop on the skin. On a molecular level, this phrase has lingered in my memory for years since I heard someone use it to try to describe what a particular crystal was doing to the water that it was supposedly infusing. She said it altered the water on a molecular level. She had no real way to explain this molecular change, but was clearly quite certain that a mystical transformation was happening to the water as a result of its contact with the crystal on a molecular level. The special infused water could detoxify the body and balance the drinker's energies. To her, this molecular level working of the crystal pervaded the water beyond conscious human intervention, invisible, imperceptible to the five senses, and not empirically quantifiable, but absolutely real. She was describing magic, in other words, in a way that sounded like science. Microplastics are everywhere on the surface of the planet, carried by air and water to places where we've never set foot, from the bottom of the sea to the strata of Antarctic ice. They've dispersed into table salt, rainwater, and the food sources of wildlife at every scale. When scientists in the field study microplastics, in practice, they're classified first through visual recognition. That is by a person seeing a little speck in a specimen. And after they've been identified, they can be studied using they can be studied using spectroscopy. Nanoplastics are even smaller than microplastics. They're detectable only through a microscope, and their behaviors are only beginning to be well understood. The particles can be described in chemical terms, but their variety of forms and behaviors makes them very tricky to map. One thing that's clear is that they are in our bodies. They break down small enough to enter our bloodstreams, and they've been traced in the bodies of the youngest infants. How did it ever feel to think that the things that we had thrown away had simply vanished, just like that? When wood is burned, it goes away. It's transferred into heat and smoke and ash. A puddle evaporates in the sun, it vanishes entirely, the water goes away. We pour salt onto a winter sidewalk, and as it melts the ice, it dissolves, it runs off, it's gone. Never mind how what soaks into the ground makes its way into our streams, and what it does there never seemed to make a difference, and it was basically a natural mineral anyways. But plastics, these things that humanity has made, things entirely unlike anything that existed in nature before us, we know that they don't go away, not really. They sit around for time spans that we can't quite imagine, And as they accumulate, they very gradually degrade, sloughing off little bit by little bit. Small pieces break down into ever smaller pieces, the tiniest fragments slowly drifting out on their own. But they never become anything else. The tiny, tiny bits don't dissolve or recombine with other minerals or integrate with the environment through the endless churn of matter and carbon-based life forms. They just disperse beyond our perceptual horizon. They've gone to the molecular level. Also, there was no more sea. I grew up surrounded by language of apocalypse. It comes naturally enough for a kid to feel like their corner of the world is the culmination of the history of the world itself. All the world beyond is new to them in the first place, all set up for their arrival. We rejoiced in the vision of being the last generation that would walk this earth. The signs were everywhere we looked. It all ended with us. In the final days, we would be swept up into the world to come. Many would be left behind along with the natural world and all the living creatures in it. And of course, we cared about them, but there was a higher destination to keep in mind at all times. We've got a new world coming, we told one another. I would come to understand that we were only the most recent in a long line of American generations who celebrated the belief that it ended with us, that we were chosen ones to experience the culmination of history. As the book of Revelation draws to a close, John writes, "Now I saw a new heavens and a new earth, for the first heavens and the first earth had passed away. Also, there was no sea." So I have the pleasure of introducing Tyler Ray. Tyler is a climber, a dancer, and a visionary who processes the pace of the natural world through movement and creates resonant, vibrant, tactile experiences with fully embodied language.
Thank you, Christine, and everyone. Drift. I meet the water at its edge. Am drawn to know exactly how many shapes of blue the water will turn before my eyes. I wonder momentarily about the glimmering rocks in the sky. The ice beneath my feet is more liquid than I had imagined. Suddenly, everything is moving. Cyan, indigo, cobalt, aquamarine. The sunlight glares off the ice. I remember grief like a crack that let the dawn in, when all I wanted was to close my eyes. Crevice, slit, rupture, crevasse, unknown. An infinite fog brings an island into and out of view for centuries. Ancient mountains no one has seen rise into the underbelly of the ice. My forward motion increases, the looming of ice caves advancing into a foreground. The ice plays tricks with my eyes. I ask ice what it knows. It keeps changing. I reacquaint myself with the pause before each step, breathe into the body of the ice to feel certain that it could be an extension of my own. Porous, spilling, leaking, cracking, opening, responsive to all external conditions, a topography of blue, mapped into the body of my mind. What is something you know that you can't unknow? That dawn is a symphony, that the light of the sun always touches my eyes first before the sun comes into view, that dawn is relentless, that it will keep arriving even after ice and I vanish, that life is a tidal flow of seeing and relinquishing, that I must love and love wisely before it all fades to dusk. Thank you.
All right. Group clap, everyone. I have the pleasure of wrapping us up. There's really just two things that I want to say. The first is that the way that most people describe me is difficult to impress. And I mean that very seriously. And to the point where it's usually frustrating. And I am incredibly impressed by all of you. And it was an absolute privilege to share the last 6 weeks with you. And I know that for many of you, writing is not your primary medium, but I will be pissed if the people in this class do not continue writing, who hadn't already been writing. Everyone in here, what you created was extraordinary, and you all have a gift with words. And the other thing that I wanted to say is the generosity that you all showed each other on Canvas, in our in our Zoom meetings, and to the space in general was extraordinary. And I speak for both Ginger and I, that it is really, really deeply appreciated. And I mean, we knew the first day with how willing you all were to to just dive into some really difficult, complex things and just kind of dive in with us. Like Ginger and I will say it all the time, that we really create these spaces because, I mean, or I should say how we create the spaces is just that it is what we would want, you know. We don't think a writing workshop should just be people sitting around talking about writing, right? You have to have fuel, you have to have influence, you have to have conversations and digressions and things that influence how you think and the ways that you want to write, and expose you, you know, to things you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to. That is the privilege of sitting in a space with other people. And but sincerely, your just how attentive you were with each other's work, and how much you contributed, and how much you made sure that everybody was seen and listened to and got responses and feedback, was just exceptional. And we really, really deeply, sincerely appreciate it.
I am so sorry. I'm having a raccoon catastrophe at the end of this. My dog is going bananas. This is a giant raccoon right when Andrew started talking. I apologize so much. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. You guys are amazing, and I feel like it has been such a privilege to be able to be in the same space with all of you. And that's all I have to say. I'm sad that it's over, but
seriously though, I will be livid. I will find you if any of you stop writing. I will hunt you down.
Can we give just a little shout out here to Quentin in case he watches this recording? Quentin, we all in your comments so much. We hope that you watch this and hear us say this.
That's so sweet. He sent us a very lovely message. And he said that he even in his message, he said he was going to go back into Canvas and make sure to make comment on all of your wonderful work. So
I have to mention, because Terri brought it up, our last band name for this Earth of is Raccoon Catastrophe.
It really was. You could take the girl out of the trailer, but
It wouldn't be a poetry reading if Iraq didn't show up.
oh Lord.
And I
Can I say a word?
Yeah, me too.
Go ahead, Christine.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to being in touch with all of you over email in the coming weeks as we pull some of your best writing and the writing that you want more people to see into book form. I look forward to there being a lot of it. You are extraordinary, and I'm so happy to get to work with you.
I forgot we were making a book.
Oh, we're making a book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, before you say something, Dhooleka, I just want to say before I forget, I am also going to, I'll do it tonight before everybody abandons Canvas. I'm just going to start a discussion thread, and I'll pin it to the top. That is, we do this every class where if you want to share your contact info with the group, anything you email or social media or whatever, so that everybody can stay in touch if you want to, a thread will be there. Go ahead, Dhooleka.
Am I competing with the raccoons? I don't know. I just wanted to say a huge heartfelt thank you again to Ginger and Andrew for creating a safe space where we could be vulnerable, where we could be ourselves, where we could explore collectively, where you ensured that we heard things from the other side, and where it was deeply philosophical. There are so few spaces like this that exist on this earth. So I am just deeply thankful to be in Zoom rooms with you all regularly. And I'm kind of sad and bummed you're going in person. I'm sorry, that's totally selfish of me to say. But I hope that you will consider, and I know I've invited you to do this before, to do an Earth of in Bangkok. You know, why can't you just Zoom everyone else in over here when I can be in person? So please, thank you. Heartfelt thanks to you. It's just incredible. And it's so generative as a writer to be part of everyone's discussions and works. And everyone was amazing. Like, wow. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I just want to also thank you, Andrew and Ginger, for just believing that a space like this could exist and going for it and making it happen and inviting us all to it. And there have been so many incredibly difficult topics that we have tackled in conversation in this group, and we've tackled it with so much care and compassion and from so many different perspectives that there have been multiple times when I've been like, are we gonna just solve all the world's problems in this class right now? Like, we've come so close. It's been just such a privilege and such a joy, and I'm really gonna miss it. So thank you, everyone.
David, did you want to say anything in closing?
Well, I mean, I'm so moved by what I heard tonight. Honestly, I'm in the works and the words and the dicks. It's no, it's I just love it. I've said a few times, one of the great, I don't know what to call it, transformations or lessons for me. If you had asked me about, what they used to call online education, like a couple years ago, I had a position, 5 years ago. But this is such a different thing that has happened in this last couple years. And the magic of the communicative spaces that are possible. It literally has changed how I understand what's possible. And I think most of you probably know, maybe you don't, I don't know, when when COVID first started, we were only like a couple months from our summer. We had a whole summer planned a couple of years ago, and we had to cancel all of our programs. We'd never done online. Everything was in person at the campus, and we had maybe 6 programs, including one that I was supposed to do, and everybody canceled, including me. I was like, I can't do this, except Ginger and Michael Harrison, doing music. They said, well, I don't know, why not? Why don't we see? We don't know. Maybe it'll work. Let's try it on Zoom, And I was like, I'm not doing it. Yeah, if you want to, that's great. I love it. Wonderful. Let's see what happens. And I couldn't believe it. Like the capacity, the ability to construct this space that you all are in and describing, and sharing and living. It's just incredible. And I'll tell you the truth, if it weren't for, Ginger and Andrew continuing that, and Michael, he's like nonstop. He's basically a year-round class now, in music. I don't think he even takes, maybe there's a week off in between. But I don't know that we would have been where we are. I'm saying ALN as an organization has just grown an incredible community around the planet because of these spaces. And of course, it's not the technology; it's the human. You know what I mean? It's the voice. It's the voice that brings it together. So thank you so much, Ginger and Andrew and everybody. And I love, and please make the book. I love. Thank you, Christine. I love what I heard, and I really want to go back to it as soon as possible. Visit the words. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. It was such a pleasure to see all of you and to hear your beautiful writing and words and voice. Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
And don't worry, I'm going to be sending you an email. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to have to at least once a month or once every 2 months, maybe 2 months, 3 quarterly. Maybe we'll do it quarterly. We'll just have a little group session. Or else I might die.
Sorry, there's a bunch of motorcycles going by, but Ginge, am I wrong, or is this? I hope I'm not misspeaking, but isn't this summer? Aren't you going to do it also online, in person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of. Some sort of hybrid something.
We'll be up at the campus, but there'll also be a online component.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Good.
And also, I've said everybody here has access, and I know Ginger feels with you, you always have access to us, if you, it might take us a minute to get back to you, but if you, need anything, if you want to critique, if you want to edit, if you just need somebody to talk to about, this stuff that you can't anywhere else, that you always have access to us.
We're going to Bangkok.
I would love to go back.
The Earth House goes on the road.
Oh, and Monica,
you're all invited.
I did get a copy of Solitude. I have it sitting right here. So I will be. that is the next book I'm going to read. So I will be in touch.
Write me after you read it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Raccoon catastrophe.
I think if we put all our band names together, we would have another poem.
I still like
nonstop. bad names.
Michael's Eagle business. I still think about that probably at least once a day. I think about the phrase Eagle business. That's got to be the name of something.
All right.
I've had the same. I have the same aversion to online teaching. I've taught it. It's dreadful. I just didn't see the richness of it. But during the pandemic, if not for this group, it was. We've said it before. It was just a lifeline, and it's so rich and enriching. It was just so inspiring that it has also altered my idea of, what can be achieved online and at a distance with Dhooleka. But I think I don't know, it's the team, the teachers, and everyone who signs on to it brings something. It's been very enriching and very deep and challenging, more so than other courses I've taken online. Yeah. Very different.
And we've been pleasantly amazed, really, that each time the people that have come, that had answered the call and come to the class, it's just been so wonderful. Like we've every time we get a little nervous, like, oh, is this the time that we're going to have somebody that throws off the vibe? Is it, because how long can this go on for? But we've just been so lucky. Like everybody that responds, it's just been great. Hi, Devin. I don't know who you are, but do we know you?
I'm Monica Lacey's husband.
Oh, sorry, I missed that part. I just wanted to, invite you in because, you were the only person that I didn't recognize. So, hi, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually just gonna sign off, but I just wanted to say, first of all, that was really lovely. Like, it was unexpectedly lovely, but unexpected in the, not that I expected little, but that it was so vulnerable. I was really taken by how vulnerable it was, and knowing just from Monica that this is kind of your first time kind of coming together. I was really struck with that, with how vulnerable it was, and it really speaks to how wonderful a space you must have all created together to be able to share your work like this. So I feel really honored to kind of be a fly on the wall for the last supper here. But yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And congratulations. And yeah, I look forward to seeing all of your names on the racks as I'm perusing the bookstore.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I don't think it was random, Ginger, or like lucky.
No, I don't either.
I think it has entirely, you can take some credit here. It has to do with your readings, your selections, the way you organize the whole thing. I mean, all that quiet busyness of curriculum building that no one really pays attention to, but is actually a lot of labor. It's probably up there with Terri's emotional labor. It's there, right? It creates that structure that allows us to go where we're supposed to be going together. So, and the readings and how you did all that, both of you were just incredible. I think it just sort of, like Carol said, we get stretched in different directions, and then the only thing we do is write in response to the prompts that you give us, and then here we are, right? Band names at all.
Yeah. No,
it's fun to hear those single sentences from the prompts that came through in so many different works. I love that. That was great.
Just the syllabus alone was such a work of art and so inspiring, and the variety of readings, the structure you built before we even started to discuss anything was.
And I think the variety gave everybody freedom to to spread their wings independently and do whatever worked for them and whatever and created such a variety of voices and works.
And Ginger, just in case you didn't see in the chat, Evan's prepared to start throwing off the vibe if you need.
You're gonna be the kid in the back of the classroom with his arms crossed.
Well, yeah, because we've never got anybody that's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Right? I mean, which could have happened. I mean, we have plenty of moments where we could have thrown somebody like for a loop.
I think they probably are all thinking that they're just being polite and willing to.
I mean, we spent hours talking about dicks. I mean, not everybody is in for that.
There has been, over the course of all of these, there has been a lot of discussions about dicks, just cumulative.
I think it's 75% of internet traffic, by the
way. But that's what Tyler said. We can't go back. That's like, I feel like that's exactly what we want, is to have this moment where like we get all of these people who are willing to get here and probably go, oh shit. And then there's a line that you either cross or you don't, you're willing to or not. And once you cross that line, you can't go back. It's just, you're committed. And
everybody knows too much.
Yeah.
You have now been completely indoctrinated.
Dick commitments. But it's true. I mean, but we do. We both. At least I can speak for me. I get, whenever we do these, I do get sort of momentary dread. Like I get, go through the phases of like getting super excited, because we do start working on these things. 2-3 months, in advance, we're working on trying to make things, figure out what readings we want to do and what we want the prompts to be and what we really want to talk about. And then, we get super excited because like we're having fun, sort of just have it, because it's fun for us to just think about all this stuff. And but then it gets closer and then you start thinking like, ah, crap. Or is anybody actually gonna, like, are people gonna like this? Is this gonna be, how many people are gonna leave the class on the first day? Are we gonna get that person that just throws off the whole, feel of the class and, and kind of it disrupts that? And it's just, but it never happens. And like it's that first day, that first meeting, then everything just clicks and everybody that's there is supposed to be there. And it's, it's, I don't know why it happens, but it's wonderful. I think it's just all the esoteric, like Evan always jokes about that. If we just make things really confusing and esoteric, then we're only going to get a certain kind of a person that's willing to cross that line and join.
Okay, so since we're on the topic of Evan's small obsessions, which I won't say out loud, but I know I've also shared images of you from Southeast Asia. So yesterday, you, but especially you, Evan, were in my thoughts because in preparation for, I have to give a small talk in front of a Javanese sculpture that was donated by the VOC, which is the Dutch East India Trading Company. At the National Museum, because I'm a volunteer here. And so I got to go to the library, which isn't often that we get to go in there and they unlock all the things. And I started looking through books on Southeast Asia and Southeast Asian art to try to find the actual artifact or some semblance of it. It's a Ganesha with skulls, which is very weird if you know Ganeshas. Anyway, instead, what did I take pictures of? Because I couldn't find what it was. Here, I were ready. Close your eyes if you don't like things.
You can show us some lingo.
Yeah, of course. Can you see that? Sorry. Here, I'll stand up. No, you can't see it. It's a disappearing one.
You
Oh,
have
there
to
it
put it close to you.
No, it's right in against my heart. It's not working here. Okay, fine. But anyway, I have pictures for you, Evan. Again, not like the parks I told you about that exist all through Bangkok. Ta-da. It's all Southeast Asia, left over from an old 5th to 6th century Sanskrit cosmopolis. So I feel like you're just reviving something that's so inherent to here and so
It's
open.
sculptures?
Yeah, no, your descriptions, your writing, right?
No, but those photos are photos of sculptures.
Those are sculptures that are found objects across Southeast Asia that are cataloged. And I can't remember the one that I was trying to show you and kept disappearing, like Ginger once kept disappearing on us in shadows. I think that one is Cambodia. It's either Java or Cambodia. I mean, it was found in Java or Cambodia. It's probably at the Met, knowing our histories, but yeah, let me look. Where is it? Oh no, look, National Museum of Vietnamese History, Ho Chi Minh City. That one that I showed you is sitting in Ho Chi Minh City.
Is there a Linga temple or a Linga museum in Thailand, or am I misremembering that?
I mean, there could be. I'm not sure. There probably could be. Oh, and I told you there's like those spontaneous figures that are, in parks here and stuff. That one that we saw.
That's what just at the markets and stuff. There's just statues and sculptures and keychain, big baskets filled with
yeah, it's everywhere.
Keychains,
yeah.
You really can't go anywhere in Thailand without seeing a penis.
Yeah, correct.
Found object art. All right, everyone. I hate to say this, but I am going to have to bid you all adieu.
Thank you so much, everybody, for doing this with us.
And keep an eye out for Canvas. Again, I'll put a thread up so that everybody can share their contact information if you wish to. And I know Christine's going to be in touch with everybody about the book, so we'll excuse me, we'll also be in contact for a little while. Anyway, sorry, it's a terrible time to get a tickle in my throat.
Andrew and Ginger, how long do we have access to Canvas if we wanted to copy some of the feedback we've gotten?
Forever.
Forever? Oh, cool. Okay.
As far as I know, unless there's some Canvas rule that I don't know about.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be forever.
Yeah, I want to compile all of this stuff.
I need like a big
forever
echo.
and earth time.
Forever, like God, I need God. Like there needs to be a God voice filter for this. Like, forever.
The tattoos, they used to say were forever. And then my old friend, he's a 90-year-old tattoo artist. He said they only last as long as the skin does.
Well, there is a I'll say this, and there is a tattoo historic, because tattooing was illegal in Japan until like a year ago, but it's always existed. It's been probably the largest tattooing tradition in the world, and as far as just like quantity, but there was a historian who was really fascinated by it, and he has you can go to Japan and see it. It is a collection of, he asked for volunteers of people who had been tattooed illegally, who had full body suits, to have their skin and he had them in his home for like archived. He still does. I mean, you can still, I think they're in a museum or something now, but he had dozens of them just for research. But the skins are still in, I mean, they've been dried and preserved and everything, but they're still hanging in there after 100 years. That's my final thought for this class.
Great to see you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
David, thanks, Homa.
Thanks for coming, David.
Thank you, guys. It was great.
I feel so full.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Michael. Hey, do we have a deadline, Christine?
Oh.
Do we have a deadline?
Not yet. We will. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone,
Bye.
thank you.